the field, Mr. Daniel Huba, who's the Vice President, Community Pass Market Development with Mastercard. Mr. Huba, welcome to Uganda and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thanks very much, Regina. This chilly morning, eh?
Yes.
It's quite chilly, but good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here today.
Well, we are the Pearl of Africa, so
indeed.
you find anything here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we understand you come from Mastercard, but we also have heard of Mastercard Foundation. Could you give us the distinction?
Yes, so, you know, Mastercard Corporate, where I sit, we are a payment technology company. Many people think we are a card company, actually, but we are actually a technology company in the payment space. We facilitate digitization of various transactions and make your buying experience for goods and services enjoyable. So we are for profit and doing this every day for over 50 years so far, close to 5 decades globally, you know, covering over 270 countries. On the other hand, Mastercard Foundation is a not-for-profit, independent entity with its own board that's doing a lot of philanthropy work. So we are two separate and distinct entities with different purposes.
All right. Thank you so much for making that clear. Now, with Mastercard Corporate, you did have a second summit of its kind. Let's first talk about the first summit you said you had in India. What were the objectives of that summit, and have they been met before the second summit came through?
Good question, Regina. Yes. So Community Pass really is, you know, it's part of a business within Mastercard. We call it a social enterprise in Mastercard. And our job at Community Pass is focused around how do we roll out technology solutions for individuals, businesses, and communities at last mile. And we operate this business in two regions. So in Asia, Southern Asia, specifically India, and in Africa, where we are in about 4 countries. So the summit in India last year, January, was focused on unveiling Community Pass to the public and be able, you know, to showcase what we are doing in our 2 continents. And the idea there was to rally the call around the importance of digitization for last mile. And we're very proud that if you look at our journey from last year to this year, we've just hit our close to 5 million users on Community Pass, a double growth from what we had last year. So we are happy to report that there's growth in terms of the number of users we have. We are happy to report that there's growth in terms of the partnership we have. We're happy to report that there's growth in terms of the countries we are facing or we are deploying into. So we see that as growth.
Okay. Now, you have mentioned Community Pass.
Yes.
It could be foreign to some people, but yet they could end up becoming your 5,000,001 user.
Yes, exactly.
And so could you elaborate to us what Community Pass is?
So, Regina, you know, if you look at, and let me take the African continent as a context for us. So today in Africa, out of every 10 transactions that are happening in Africa today, 6 of them are offline. These are individuals who are transacting, they are in business, but financial institutions and service providers don't know of them. So there's a lot of offline transactions happening here. If you look at the identity side of things, out of every 10 Africans today, 3 do not have any form of ID with them. So Community Pass is really an interoperable digital infrastructure that allows individuals and businesses to be digitally unveiled, to be known as transacting individuals. And how do we bring that to life? The first thing we do in Community Pass is we provide an individual with what we call a functional identity. We give you a digital ID that you carry along with you, so that you as a farmer, for example, and we work with a lot of farmers in Uganda here, that a farmer from Nambale Cooperative today, when they have been registered and identified, they get a unique ID, a unique credential on Community Pass, which is a door to opportunities for them. So that's the first thing we do. The second thing is we start building a profile behind you. So as Regina the farmer registered at Nambale, when they bring in their inputs, or so when they purchase their inputs, when they bring in their produce at their cooperative, we are building those data points onto them and onto their profile. So digital profiling is the second component of Community Pass. The third thing we do is we open the opportunity for transaction management from a payment perspective. So we power payments onto the platform. And the last thing we do now, and we are trying to open that up, is to now start offering other financial services onto the platform. So that's what Community Pass does, basically providing digital tools for these individuals that were hitherto not known to start transacting and make that data available to financial institutions and service providers to be able to be efficient when they deal with them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Huba, with the 5 million plus users that you have today, how has this Mastercard Community Pass been able to play a significant role in ensuring that this financial inclusion,
yes,
especially focusing on Sub-Saharan Africa?
Yes. So if you look at Sub-Saharan Africa, we are live in 4 markets. So we are live in Uganda here, which is our largest market in our deployments. We work with about 1.3 million farmers in Uganda. We are also live in Kenya, where we work with close to 1 million farmers. We are live in Ethiopia, and we are live in Tanzania. Now, if you look at the journey of how we've done that, and the inclusion journey, as I call it, some of the important learnings we're seeing in terms of the inclusion is, first of all, making it possible for these individuals to have their data as a tool for negotiating better terms. So let me give you an example. So in Uganda here, we've been here for about 3 years now, 3 to 4 years. If you look at the ag space here, when we came through, the challenge and the complaint that we found from our farmers was the fact that they don't have access, reliable access to market. What we did in our partnership, for example, here with Your Uganda, is to launch our Agri proposition in Community Pass, and they call it Your Pay Agri here. So with Your Pay Agri, what they've done with their million farmers is to help them aggregate into cooperatives. So close to 300 cooperatives in Uganda that we work with. When the aggregation of those cooperatives were complete, the next thing was connection to market. And if you look at last year as an example, we were able to facilitate access to market for grain farmers, close to 350,000 of them, right? And they were able to sell up to $23 million worth of their produce onto the platform. Right?
And the markets, are they local markets, or they have the opportunity to, to market within the region?
You'll be surprised. A lot of that was local market. Mm-hmm. So the demand locally and internationally is big, but even locally is extremely huge. You find that the demand for grain, for example, is not just constituted in one region. So you have farmers complaining that we cannot get market in our region, but because there's no connection between the east and the north, for example. So if you look at last year, a lot of our work was domestic connection of markets. And that's what we did a lot last year with them. But we don't want to stop there, because we know, for example, grain is a commodity that is consumed across the East Africa. So Kenya is a market for grain. Rwanda is a market for grain. Southern Sudan is a market for grain. So that is what we want to do. How do we expand working with these farmers across the different markets in the region? Yes.
Okay. When you speak about the regional markets, there's of course the non-tariff barriers that an issue that has been, especially for Uganda and Kenya, regarding the grain in particular. Yes. And so it begs the question, how are you helping the farmers still ensure that they can, meet the terms and conditions that are required within regional market?
It's a good policy question. And because from a Mastercard perspective, we don't make policy, right? And how we deploy our solutions in market is to really work with the market actors. We believe it's a value chain approach. And for us, how do you crowd in the multiple service providers that make it better to serve the farmer? So once we've organized the private sector players, the off-taker, the farmer, the financial institution, we believe critically it's important to also engage policymakers, which is the government. So we are working also very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture here, and we are working very closely with the non-private sector organizations here to be able to, have those conversations as to say, what can we do to make it possible for our farmers to have better prices, to make it possible for our farmers to have better conditions and terms. So what we do is that influence, and we want to do influence by data. So we actually were glad to host Honorable Frank yesterday during the summit to be able to just unveil the work we are doing here. And the idea is to start having that conversation that is based on data, that this is what the farmers are actually doing, and these are the challenges. How do we make it easier for the farmers to access market? And we are seeing very positive vibe and very positive engagement from government, because now they are seeing the data of what is possible in the grain sector, and they are now seeing, based on that data, how do we, reduce the barriers, reduce the challenges that are there. But starting with saying, can we first of all make it possible locally for us to have the market and then open up to the region?
Okay, yes. All right. You have spoken about the second summit yesterday, and it begs the question, being the second one, why did you choose Uganda to be, or why your
Pearl of Africa?
Oh no.
Because it is the Pearl of Africa.
Because it's the Pearl of Africa. No, all right, so why did you award Uganda to host the second summit, and what intended achievements do you hope to see?
Yes, Uganda is very special for Community Pass. So this is our largest Community Pass market in Africa. We have, like I said, we have about 1.3 million farmers in Uganda. We have a lot of partnership in Uganda here. And if you look at our work in Uganda, that actually made it the reason why we came here is we not only work in the agriculture space with your Uganda, our partner, we are also expanding to work with local tech companies. So we have a program with Innovation Village, right? And in that program that we have, Innovation Village, we are identifying local tech companies that can leverage Mastercard infrastructure to enhance their solutions and roll out. So we are promoting a lot of that. We just graduated our first cohort of local tech. We work with Hamway, for example, East Africa, a local Uganda tech company. We work with MobiPay, a local Uganda tech company. We work with Service Corp, famously known for school pay, local Uganda tech companies. And the opportunity for these local tech companies to leverage the Mastercard infrastructure to expand and scale their solutions together with what we are doing in the agriculture space were the key reasons that said, look, we have a market that has the various components. And if you look at really what we were exploring at the summit, we were saying, what are then the components of our core digital ecosystem that we need to build? Who are the players we need to bring together? And Uganda was just beautifully a place where we had government, we had private sector, we had financial institutions we work with, we had the tech companies, and that is the reason why we chose Uganda.
Okay, so if it's been able to become your largest market since inception, how do you intend to keep it your largest market?
Good. So we want to keep growing our business here based on the unveilings we did yesterday. So yesterday we were very proud to launch our partnership with Equity Bank of Uganda. Again, a first one in terms of the first financial inclusion card for Community Pass in Africa was launched here yesterday with our partnership with Equity Bank. And if you look at that partnership with Equity Bank, the idea is to be able to extend the financial services to the rural communities and individuals using Community Pass, right? So that's a partnership we have here. We also have a partnership with DFCU Bank here to be able to roll out into the agriculture space. And we'll be expanding that partnership with other financial institutions. We're currently on the second cohort of the local tech companies who are growing. So today, as we move forward for us in Uganda, the goal is how do we, especially the challenge for us is this year, how do I move from 1.3 million users, how do we close the year at potentially 2.5 million, double what we have today. And if you look at in the next 2 to 3 years for us, we want to grow our base to really reach the magic 5 million numbers. And why is 5 million important for us in Uganda? Well, there are about statistics are 7 to 8 million smallholder farmers in Uganda. Those that are commercially oriented, as they call them, those that are transacting, producing for sale, are about 5 million. So we are saying today, out of the 5 million commercially transacting farmers in Uganda, 1.3 million of them are on Community Pass. So for every 5 transacting farmer in Uganda today, 1 is on Community Pass. Our goal is that in the next 2 to 3 years, get 5 million farmers digitally included into the Community Pass network to enjoy the benefit of digitization, linkage to financial institutions, linkage to agri-value chain partners. Okay. That's what we want to do.
We do have farmers that have gotten into the sector. They're young farmers. They're interested to become subscribers of the Community Pass. And so that begs the question, how does one become a part of the Community Pass?
A wonderful question, Regina. One of the things we do as Mastercard really is how do we work with our local partners to roll out. Similar to the way we work in the payment industry. You walk into your bank and you're able to open your account and they give you a Mastercard that you can transact across the world. We are not changing our approach. Our approach is that our customers and partners in the market are the frontiers of Community Pass here. So in this market in Uganda, our partner DFCU Bank, our partner Equity Bank, our partner Yo Uganda, our partner Hamway, MobiPay, Service Corp. These are the partners that are fronting community pass here. So to become a member, you will be approached by any of these partners I've just talked about. They'll be able to enroll you into the ecosystem, digitize your transaction, provide you a credential and a profile. So that's the approach of how we roll out our solutions here.
Okay.
Yes.
In there's an element of farm pass, and I know that there's some challenges, especially small-scale farmers do face. And so, as an initiative, how will you be addressing, small farmers' challenges?
Let me talk about 3 challenges that really are hindering the agriculture space, not just in Uganda, but across Sub-Saharan Africa. The first key challenge is poor input from a quality perspective. There's a lot of fake input, whether it's seed, whether it's fertilizer. One of the innovations we've come up with from a digitization perspective here in Uganda is how do we bring in partnership with quality input providers. One of our partners here is Yara, the other one is iProcure, for example. So one of the things we are doing is, through our farm pass, is allow farmers to be able to aggregate the demand of their inputs onto a digital platform and be able to share that demand with input providers so that they can get the correct quality input directly from the manufacturer and not the brokers. So the first thing is that how do you provide quality inputs to the farmers? We had a wonderful bumper harvest last year. Why? Because we connected farmers to the right inputs. Right? That's the first thing we're addressing. The second challenge that is there is how do we have consistency to market access? Jericho, one of our buyers here that is working with our farmers, proved to us last year that if you consistently source from farmers, and if they are aware of what is available at farm gate, they can be able to pay a better price. So because of digitization again, and making it possible for farmers to post what they have, we're able to link them to off-takers. And now what we are doing, we have a partnership with the Grain Council of Uganda to say it's not just one Jericho that we worked with. Can we expand to the over 140 members of the Grain Council, because now they'll have visibility of what is available by our farmers. That's the second thing we want to do. The third challenge is normally access to financial service. Regina, do you know, which is really sad, that out of 100 farmers in Uganda who apply for credit, only 3 qualify. Out of 100, only 3 qualify. We want to move that needle. We want to ask ourselves, how do we have double-digit qualification? I know we may not get 100%, but how do we work with financial institutions to make sure that farmers who are applying for credit can actually get it? And the reason why financial institutions are not lending to the farmers is because they're saying, we don't know them. We don't know them as transacting individuals. So the power of data and digitization is such that Equity Bank and DFCU will walk the journey with the farmer. When they are buying inputs, Equity Bank and DFCU and any other financial institution that is on the ecosystem we are building will be aware that Regina has bought input. When you are selling your produce, they will be aware of how you are selling your produce. So that by the time you apply for a facility, they already are experiencing you. They already have data points about you and make it possible for you to access that credit. Those are the 3 challenges we want.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Huba. And in conclusion, our conversation as it winds up, we want to find out from you, as a nation, we have Vision 2040. We do have national development plans, and so it begs the same question. As far as Mastercard is concerned, with the community pass, what is the bigger vision and what are the plans moving forward?
We're very aligned to your vision. We're very aligned to the parish model that the government is really rolling out. If you look at the parish model, for example, it fits beautifully with community pass because we are targeting rural communities, individuals and businesses. And because of that very high policy alignment with what we are doing, we are excited to see how do we do a couple of things in this market. So in the next 2 to 3 years for us is we want to grow the base of digitally included individuals at last mile, like I said, and hopefully hit our magic 5 million number in the next 3 years, right? That's the first thing we want to do, have 5 million digitally included individuals. The other thing we want to do is to be able to build the local infrastructure of digital agents. So our partnership with Innovation Village, for example, and the local tech companies is to be able to get up to 6,000 young people as digital agents so that farmers can get served where they are easier, reduce the cost or the transacting cost of the farmer. That's an important element for us. But finally, how do we build an ecosystem of actors? And that's what we said in our summit yesterday, that it is not a one-man job, a one-woman job, that you need to bring multiple players together so that we can be able to provide services to our individuals and farmers, reduce the cost of doing business, empower them to become transacting individuals that have better incomes and greater future. That's what we want to do here.
Okay, how does someone get a hold of this information so that they can utilize it, translate it into making themselves better?
Good. So if you go to our website at Mastercard, www.mastercard.com, you'll be able to get our information on Community Pass.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Huba Daniel. It's been a pleasure to have you. He's the Vice President, Community Pass Market Development with Mastercard Corporate. And of course, you can go to their website to get a hold of this information. And together, through data and digitalization, we can definitely have financial inclusion for all Ugandans, but all of Africa equally. That brings us to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much for having been a part of us. Now, the Kickstarter is also on its way, and we do have a saxophonist in the house to stay with us.
Thank you.